with 18 billion every day. 18 billion, right? There are 30 million customers that are telling them things every single day of where they are, when they wake up, where they are, what do they do, when do they check their first message, when do they send their first message, what route do they take to work or to study or whatever. So immense amount of data, so immense amount of understanding of the customer. Unfortunately, they don't use it effectively.
Absolutely, that's what I was going to say. The fortunate part is that yes, you do have data, but the unfortunate part is a critical analysis of that data, a technical analysis. Is that done? And if it's done,
it should be done.
Is it implemented then in a positive
It
manner?
should be done. If it's not being done, fire the director of marketing, right? Get somebody else, right? Who's willing
What's
to...
more important, the technical analysis or the managerial analysis?
The managerial analysis is dependent on getting insights, right? So if you have people, if you have large amounts of data, you need statistical modeling tools, right? You need to draw insights from that. You need to draw inferences from that. From 18 billion data points a day, I can only do it with statistical tools, right? So once that comes, and it's the job of the marketer to define what they're looking for. Then the data scientists will be able to look for it. So what we call data marts have to be created. So if it's, let's say, vast services, and they have a defined profile of the customer that they're looking at for a particular service, I should then be able to go to the BI people and say, look, this is what I'm looking for. So identify for me customers with this behavior pattern. So I define the variables and say, I want my customers to be defined by these variables. This is the age group, this is the gender, this is most likely the geography, this is the behavior pattern, right? Do they listen to music or not? Do they share music or not? So that gives me a constant profile.
So how many startups have you actually met that have come up with this as a problem and as a big idea?
Well, I'm involved. I'm involved with a couple of them because I like data, right? So I specifically went looking for those startups.
Could you share names of a few?
One is Xcare.
Because I think startups would really want to.
One is Xcare. I met them in 2014, right? So I kind of invested in them in 2015. They do data analytics and predictive analysis for connected vehicles. So for cars, for trucks, for motorbikes, for anything that moves. And what they do is they use 52 variables, right, to be able to predict maintenance and to be able to monitor driver behavior. So to make you a better driver. And that converts into ROI, right? If you drive your vehicle better, you're going to actually save on fuel, you save on maintenance, you save on a number of things.
So are they only doing it for this particular segment and not for the others?
Specifically focused on connected cars.
Okay.
So currently they do fleet management for Nestle. They do fleet management for the Pepsi distributor in Islamabad. They're doing it now for Hyderabad. Right? So they're gradually increasing their spread. And what it does is, once I know where the vehicle is, at what speed it's traveling, all those things, and if I have a payload like Nestle does or Pepsi does, I can plan my routes better. I can bring more efficiency into my production. I know when a vehicle is going to arrive to be loaded. I know that the warehouse is ready to unload the vehicle. So I turn around everything in a shorter period of time.
Increasing your efficiency.
Increasing efficiency
decreasing your downtime.
And money. It translates.
So this is one company, and what are the other companies that you?
The other companies, interestingly enough, you know it as a music streaming platform. I know it as a data platform, which is Patari, right? So every conversation I have with the Patari team is, I'm not interested, right, on how much music. I know they put more and more music on. I'm more interested in the profile of the users, right? So they have 250,000 users now, and we have some very interesting insights into what people are listening, when they're listening. It helps us improve the product. So we're now doing mood analysis, we're doing all kinds of things.
And that is specific to Patari only?
That's specific to Patari only. So every platform will have its own strengths, right, and how you leverage that. There's another company that I'm involved with, they do graphic novels, right? So they create stories, they create novels, they're also a publishing platform. So my whole thing is to take everything as far digital as possible. When I met them, they were actually printing comic books, right? So I knew, right, what's the print run? 5,000, 6,000, 8,000. I said, digital, we're talking hundreds of thousands. So why are we doing this? Why are we printing these? So we now have a children's application, which is again very interesting. it shows you what a 4-year-old child is reading and what a 6-year-old child is reading. Because they are preferring what they want to read. Right? So
You can put me out of job because I'm a printer and Adnan over there is also a printer.
no, nobody goes out of the job. This is the other thing. Right? You can evolve. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you, instead of printing, I have a very good friend of mine who came back from the US and he had been ruined by Hurricane Katrina because his company was called Alpha Graphics. Right? You know Alpha Graphics.
Yes.
And he was in New Orleans. So New Orleans is what you call convention town. So everybody wants their off-site meetings in New Orleans. There's a lot of jazz, there's a lot of fun there. Except Katrina wiped him out. So he was already, it was already, I think, on the downscale that people are transferring materials digitally. But at conventions and all, there was a huge amount of printing requirements or brochures and all kinds of booklets and everything. And then suddenly one day the business is gone. Right? So he had to spinize the farmer. So
I hope I don't have to become a farmer.
No, there is always going to be a requirement. I personally of the view, because I've been in a newspaper, and I used to argue this and say paper is the most inefficient way to deliver news. Right? And increasingly, the world is beginning to.
It's more of a cultural and a habit, I think, to be able to hold a book. So, once again, because they're all startups and they're all very, very interested in finding out how to build the narrative and story for your brand, and of course, this is in connection with the.
So once we agree that a brand is a living entity, right? So we need to create a legend for it. What does the brand really stand for? Is your brand a hero? Is your brand a friend? Does your brand have empathy and is it a caregiver? Right? So what kind of role does that brand play in people's lives? That helps you create that legend for the brand. Right? And then we've got a set of values, like you said, a character. So we create a set of values for it. Is it ambitious? Is it fun-loving? Is it very reliable? Right? Is it very ethical? Right? So we take those
Or what
values.
if it's just a fad, do you think? Do you also tell your startups that this is going to be a fad? It's not going to.
As a product,
As a product, yes.
not necessarily, because we help them refine. Right? Most of them, when they come with an idea, the idea is not bad. Right? Either there is a barrier to the idea. Right? There may be a regulatory barrier. One of the very interesting companies that came to us in the last selection, we didn't take them. So they wrote to me and they said, why don't you take us? Now, these are two young kids, and they said, we're going to create lockers, right, where people can come and store their valuables. Because banks don't have enough. There just aren't enough lockers. Plus, banks are 9 to 5. So we're going to create lockers which are accessible 24 hours. Right? They will have a secure place and all that. As an idea, sounded very good. But the problem is regulatory.
I would be very insecure if they came to me.
So regulatory.
Yes, regulatory, absolutely.
So one is the regulatory issue.
Yes.
Will the state bank allow you to do that, number one? Secondly, will the local SHO turn up every second day and say, iska locker code? Right? So banks, they can't do that. So we said, go back. They wrote to me and they said, why don't you take us? So I told them, I said, these are the issues. So very smart kids, so they sent me an email with 4 companies in India that are actually doing this, that are actually providing lockers and all. So I said, okay, let's.
Let alone lockers, I think we still don't have the warehousing space which you see abroad, which is a big business, which I think is an excellent idea, and I'm not sure if people are doing it in Pakistan.
Logistics is huge. Your e-commerce is not going to hit that 1 billion mark or go past that 1 billion mark unless you have logistics sorted. Right? So we have a huge struggle right now. Every day we have issues. We've had issues with the best logistics provider over here. Right? I'm having a conversation with them on email these days because of one of our companies. And either the grammage gets booked wrong, so we get charged more, or it ends up in the wrong place. Right? My own daughter, who's a fashion designer, she had a studio opening last month because she does a lot of work for PTI. So she invited Imran to the opening, and he came. Right? So she presented him with a shalwar kameez for Eid. Then she thought that he's not going to cart it around, so I'll ship it to him. So she gave it to TCS to deliver it to Imran Khan in Bani Gala with the address. They delivered it to Lahore. Right? So that kind of, so we know that the logistics, that we have right now are very antiquated, right? They're not efficient. Turnaround of money is a big problem. If you're doing cash on delivery,
I was just going to come on to that. Also, at a few e-commerce conferences, we've been coming across this dilemma that is it not almost a mockery?
The growth of e-commerce is going to be slower because of these issues, right? Number one, I can't buy online, right? I can't really place an order, pay for it then and then, and expect delivery. So it's still cash on delivery. There is a risk factor, not just for yourself as a printer, for a lot of other products. People change their minds, right? So they order something, it arrives and they say, I don't want it, so they send it back. So you've got
That's a huge risk. Yeah. That's a huge risk for everyone.
Currently, it hasn't been that bad except for Black Friday. On Black Friday, there's a huge amount of returns. So there are that.
Surprisingly, I found out that it's not been so bad as one would have thought. But still, conceptually, not having that this e-commerce seamlessly integrated is a huge issue in this part of the world.
It is. For a lot of things, for a lot of things. That shouldn't be a problem. Cinema tickets, bus tickets.
Have you been able to approach the regulators and do something at a more serious, at a higher level for this? Because I feel that the single most important hampering, the biggest obstruction is the fact that we do not have.
I'll just give you an example. PayPal was actually a technical solution, not a financial solution. Yes. So they started with the technology of it, and that's how it happened. Now, technology.
But the brand grew to have credibility.
The brand is going to grow if it's doing the right thing. It's going to, if it's got growing customers, it will happen. Now, the problem over here is the regulatory environment, right? The banks are not innovators. Banks have never been innovators. Banks do things by incrementals. They don't take big leaps forward. So it has to be a technology solution that has to come. Because banks, even when you have a technology team, and I've met some of them, right? Some of them came over to Lums also to talk to us and say we want to do a fintech challenge and all that. Unless the state bank encourages a young entrepreneur who's got a solution in his mind and he steps up and is supported, it's not going to happen that easily. So the regulatory environment is restrictive right now. I think thinking changes are happening. We've been going to the Planning Commission, we've been advocating there. Right, from there it's gone to PTA, from PTA it's gone to State Bank. So they're looking at it, SCCP is involved and saying, okay, what do we do with the licensing and all that? So all that is happening. But then you've got to find solutions interimly.
And what are the good interim solutions? Because there are a lot of people out there who may would want to know what's the MCD product like, what does the UBL integration mean? I mean, what comes to your mind as advice, as interims?
25 million people now have what you call CASA accounts, right? Current and saving accounts. So, by definition, again, as a default, they have an ATM card. Right? If you have a current account, you're going to have an ATM card. The ATM card is normally going to be Visa or MasterCard. So you have an instrument already there. Now the question is, how do you integrate that into an e-commerce platform? So you need a gateway of some kind. So there are gateways emerging right now. Right, so EasyPay is one gateway.
Yes,
right?
it is becoming very popular.
So that allows you to use to accept credit cards or debit cards of any kind. Banks still need to do more because to use your debit card, you've got to call them first and say, can you please authorize, I want to make this transaction.
All right, so but they do allow it.
Yeah, they do allow it.
All right.
So that
what are the banks that you recommend for this? Hasn't MCB gotten a product and a like?
MCB Lite was one product. Yes. It's about gateways, not just specific banks. Because if I have something like EasyPay, I don't have to just go to my bank. I can use, I can replenish that from any of the banks, IDFT transfers and all. So plumbing, your e-commerce platform must have good plumbing, is what we call it, right? That you should be able to accept multiple methods of payment.
So he advises that they should have multiple options on their website, as many as possible.
So Jazz Cash is there, Jazz Cash as a gateway. Well, all of them have banks behind them.
Yes.
Right, so Jazz Cash is
Cash is good and convenient.
Cash is good, convenient. Then now MasterCard, MasterPass, which is powering PhonePe.
Yes.
E-wallet, that's there. Finca Bank, right?
Yes.
They have SimSim, they are empowering SimSim. So all these are there, and gradually they'll all start getting integrated. Once they're integrated, you'll have multiple choices. You still won't have an all-encompassing PayPal, which hopefully someday will happen. It's not too far.
it's not too far, but you think these are steps in the right direction?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Today, we have one team in LC, they call themselves TiE, and they're talking about the cashless solution, right? So what we've done is, we experimented in the premises of Lumps itself with one outlet. So there's a superstore.
Yes.
So they provided superstore with a reader. Superstore was the point of recharge for that card, and there were about, in 5 weeks, there were transactions around 70,000, right? So it was a test case. Now they have validated data.
Good, yes, absolutely. Good case study,
Yeah.
but obviously they're an enlightened bunch and it's easier for
But
you
the whole purpose of
now.
that, the whole purpose of that was to validate the technology.
Absolutely.
Right? They're using blockchain. They, how does it work? How quickly does their server, right, send an accepted or declined message to the merchant? So today the meeting was about 5 merchants inside Lumps today. Right? Now there are 5 places, and what we want is pay card to be integrated with the student card that everybody carries in Lumps, so they can actually start using the student card, right, to make payments within the premises of Lumps. Still a lot of issues. The CFO told us, right, all the issues that he has with that. So we're now going to find solutions to that. Right? So we're doing it. So it's bits and pieces. But you will, and that's what happens. And suddenly you have one breakthrough, and that breakthrough then begins to change it.
Thank you so much, Faisal. I would like to now open the house to any questions that Faisal could answer for you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Amir. I have a startup here. I've been working on it for the past 3 years. It's an edtech startup called Uninama. And I was also incubated at Plan 9 and at TiE Nust also. So my question is, without getting into much details, so the sort of product that I have, I encounter what they call the chicken and egg problem, right? So we have different users and we have different customers. Both of them are different segments. I think that's something that TiE also faced in the initial stages. I'm not too sure about that. So how do we address that problem when it comes to branding our startup or creating the effective marketing campaign?
What does it specifically do?
Yeah, so it's basically a networking platform for the academia sector. So we're creating student profiles, faculty profiles, kind of a LinkedIn sort of a thing where the academia sector can interact.
When you use the word sort of.
You want me to?
Yeah.
Okay. Just specifically for faculty?
Specifically.
All right. So it enables the faculty to interact with the students in and out of their classrooms. So anyone who's conducting research into their in their respective fields can interact with the concerned faculty of their university or from other.
So it's basically a kind of a work share platform, should I call it that?
It's a work share / networking platform for them.
Work share, networking, same thing.
Yeah.
If not, somebody's not in my network, I'm not going to work share with them.
Exactly.
Right? So they have to be part of the same community.
Yes.
So it's a community platform for work share, right?
Exactly.
Between students and faculty members,
Yes.
right? Where you can work on a piece of, where you can work on a project, you can create research and all that.
Yes.
Next question, where's the money?
The money comes from after we have enough user base.
No, who's going to pay?
The universities.
Universities or students or faculty?
No, see, we are targeting the universities because as I asked you earlier.
Now it's far more complicated. Because you talked about faculty and you talked about students, so I'm thinking, okay.
No,
fine.
faculty is one part of it, so you know.
So we say, okay, they're fine and up and running. So now you're possibly talking about an ERP
Exactly.
that a university has to buy into,
Yes.
do something else.
Okay.
Trust me. It's a real problem, it's not going to be easy.
I know it's not easy at all. Yeah, I've been working on it for a long time.
Unless you find one university, right, to do that one pilot with you, from where you have that validated data, that you can then take to other universities and say, we will make you far more efficient.
We are-
You spend less money, right? The best compelling argument is, you'll spend less money, doing much more.
That's what we're doing actually, and we do have we have piloted with 2 universities. I'm currently working on the other on the third one as well. It's not really an ERP. I would love to sit with you later someday and
Sure.
talk to you about this. But my actual question was, let's
How
say
do you brand it?
Yeah, exactly. How do I
How
brand
do you
it?
brand it?
Yeah, how do I brand it? That was my actual question. Thank you.
If you call it grapes, will that work?
I didn't get your point.
I said, if you call it grapes, will it work?
Grapes.
Grape, अंगूर,
Grape wine.
अंगूर,
Okay.
एक bunch होता है ना, उसमें अंगूर होते हैं बहुत.
Bill.
When Steve Jobs said we call it Apple, everybody said he's crazy.
Oh, in that context, yeah.
This is a computer. He wants to call it Apple. But when you look at it and you look at the whole legend and story, right? It is about wisdom. It is about things.
जब लोग कहेंगे अंगूर खट्टे हैं तो फिर
So,
Also grape wine.
and apple can be rotten also.
rotten apples, yeah.
So, what I'm trying to say is that you have to define the legend in your mind, right? Like we earlier said, I would take you through a small little exercise in 15 minutes and you come up with branding, right? You can do that yourself also. You know what it does. You know who it's targeted at. You know what its benefit is. So look at that, right? And say, call it Arastuya. You don't want to call it Grace, call it Aristotle. So find some connection to what you're doing and what you want to offer. That's the beauty of a founder. You can call it anything. Patari, right? When the first name was proposed, and said Patari, right? So Khalid asked me, he said, what do you think? I said, it's great. Because I built my own story around it, and I said, lots of things have come out of it. Because I was already thinking literature, and saying music, literature, podcast. So there's a lot in that Patari. It's a container out of which a lot is going to come. Some people say Patari mein to saamp hota hai. I said, yes, hota hai. So kuch saamp bhi niklenge isme se. Some of the podcasts are literally snakes because they're very edgy and they talk about a lot of things that normally don't get talked about. So think of it in those ways. Think of it, and say, what is its core benefit? And that will get you to the name. The name is not the big problem, right? Defining the personality of it is a real problem. We touched briefly on positioning. To me, the 4 P's are pretty standard, right? Is actually positioning. Because positioning is the perceptive part of what you do. Right? It is where you sit in the consumer's mind. And positioning is not just about what you think of your product. It's not about what your product is. It is how it is positioned against competition. How do you defeat the competition from finding that place in the consumer's mind? That is positioning. Right? So you've got to think of it in terms of when you're launching your brand or you're revamping your brand or you're planning a campaign for your brand and say, what is the current perception in the customer's mind? What do they think of my brand at this point in time? Right? And then what do I want them to think? Because that is where I want to arrive at. That perception that I desire to be sitting in the consumer's mind. So always think of positioning in that manner.
Hi Faisal, I am Bilal Hamid.
Gee, I think I know you.
Yeah, you've seen me. So my question was basically upon AI startups.
Yes.
So it's basically harder when you're doing AI research, and at the moment when you're doing the research, you don't know what your product is going to be. So at that point, how do you basically brand yourself, because you have not found a consumer case that is actually going to be the person that you're talking to about the brand of your company. So how do you pass that phase when you're uncertain about what it is going to be? Because AI is basically every day you work on it, you evolve, and that is inconsistent phase. How do you pass? How do you basically manage your brand or company while you're in that phase?
The first thing is, if you're approaching it from that angle, it's the wrong angle to approach from. AI by itself, right, is largely a tool for enabling certain things, right? Artificial intelligence, which means that you're actually not putting people to work, you're putting machines to work. And you write the rules for that AI yourself. AI does not happen by itself. You initiate the rules and then you give it a certain, again, a rule book or a tool book through which it is continuing to learn. That data, as the data flows in, it learns more and more and becomes more and more intelligent. It has more insight. You cannot have AI without having a customer because you don't know what problem you're solving. So how are you going to write the rules? How are you going to give it the first identity or the first, let's say, awareness? If I just take a simple example, let's take food as an example, or let's take an ice cream parlor as an example. I love ice cream, so I'll keep referring.
Yeah, sure.
Ice cream parlors. So what do? You want to use AI, right, to make your ice cream parlor the best parlor in town. So what are you going to do, right? You have a set of flavors. Let's say you have Baskin 31 or 32, and you want to find out what flavors, right? What age group, what let's say which part of town, right, likes which flavor. You start to give it a basic a frame of reference and saying these are the filters that you're going to use to identify the customer, right? And you somehow you're going to capture that data. So when somebody is ordering a scoop of ice cream, you ask 3 or 4 questions, and you put those questions into that, into that data point. And from there, the AI engine that you developed starts to draw inferences for you, and starts to say, okay, you need to order more strawberries because people like strawberry, right? Or you need to order more chocolate because people like chocolate. Or you can design this combination and say, if you order a scoop of ice cream of chocolate and strawberry, right, you can get 20% off. But you're developing these combinations from the consumer insights that you're getting. That's an AI engine, right? So you're using it for that purpose. By itself, no AI is going to do anything. It needs to have a frame of reference.
Firstly, I want to put it in a context. So basically, we're working on the connection of people. You were talking about telecoms having a lot of data. We have a small set of that data. We have small data set of that part.
Sure.
So we're basically building that intelligence, and it can bring it is a massive opportunity.
You have a data set, right? You have a data set of 1 million customers.
Yeah.
And those 1 million customers, 20 or 50 different segments, right? In age group, in gender, in geography, and all that. And then there's a behavior pattern, right? So they like a certain thing, they go to a certain place, they frequent certain restaurants, they buy certain from certain stores, right? So you get a granular profile of the customer. Now that data, right? If you are planning to sell that data, then you're going to find somebody who's interested in having those insights into that customer.
Yes, that is the tricky part. Like, then how do I formulate the person?
Call yourself Spotlight here.
Yeah.
Call yourself Spotlight and say, we'll shine a spotlight on your customer. Right? What are you doing? You're basically, you're using a laser rather than a big, let's say, big light.
Yes.
Right? You're very sharp and focused. So, it's a question of what you want to do with it. If you want to call yourself, let's say, data site, that we have site because of data. We identify customers because of the data that they provide us. Right? So that leads you to that kind of brand identity. So I'm all-knowing because I have so much data on you.
Yes.
So I understand what you do, and I understand where you go, and understand how you behave. I understand how much money you spend online. I understand how much money you're spending offline. If that's the data I'm getting. It's a question of how much data, what variables are there, what insights can be created out.
Thank you.
Rajat, we can't possibly have a session without you asking me a question.
All set for it, sir. Just need a little push.
You can go ahead without the mic.
All right,
You
so
can just stand up.
FSJ, my concern is, whenever I see, and the ones even after spending a day, time with an incubator or two, we see the customer focus is nowhere, right? All they're thinking is either a product, or investment. That's what we see. Startups are doing all the time. So what changes do the incubators need to bring in their curriculum, or what new curriculum they need to develop, or approach they need to adopt to make startups think about customers right from day one rather than investment or product?
I think it starts with the selection process, right? We don't, LC as a rule doesn't. And we cannot understand why a company can go from one incubator to another incubator. That normally means there is no focus on the customer, there is no focus on what they're actually intending to do. They're chasing money, right? They couldn't raise money from one incubator, they're going to another incubator in the hope that they'll raise money from there, right? So that is that. Both Khurram and I, right, at least in LC, we do not tell our startups, let's start running after money day one. Right? We don't. We try to focus you, and you know that we try to focus on customer. If you come to me and say, can you make an introduction to so-and-so because I want to understand my customer better, I'll do that more readily. Rather than say, can you connect me to an investor where I can go and make a pitch because I know you're not ready. So the purpose of incubation, right? If we feel that in a 4-month period, a particular team or a particular founder is not really going to gain from those 4 months to get to that stage, that they actually at least have customer understanding, they have a minimum viable product, and they can find their first customer during those 4 months, we normally not take them. Right? So we're pretty tough on that and say that's not going to, if it's not going to help you, what's the point? Right? Why should we bring you in for 4 months to put you through that period? At the end of the 4 months, you're exactly where you started. Right? So that can't happen. So customer focus, like I started with that and said customer focus is the key thing. Even when you're thinking of your brand and how you want to develop your brand, you focus on the customer. The first point of empathy, right, is from the problem, right, to the customer, to the one person who faces that problem. That's where it starts from. I know your startup, so I know exactly, right, what kind of customer focus you have, and say, okay, where do you want to go with it? If you don't have that kind of empathy with your customer, you are never going to find a solution. It is always going to be half-baked. You will always be running around trying to iterate and change it and pivot and pivot and pivot, right? So pivots are not bad, but pivots must be with a purpose, right? Not just because you got it wrong and then you want to get it again and you want to do things again and again. The other thing is we always talk about saying if you have to fail, fail fast, right? Don't take too long over it, right? Because you lose energy. Right? So fail fast and if need be, then find your pivot and do something different. Right? So that is important. Any period of incubation that does not help you focus and at the end of the incubation period have a very deep and a good understanding of your customer, is a waste of time.
Thank you, sir, for a very insightful talk. My question is that startups by definition start with an idea. An idea is something like a virus in your mind and you're totally committed to it. And going by the example of Apple, like Steve Jobs said that we want to build computers that we want to use. So I think they were successful because they wanted to build something for themselves. So my question is in that paradigm, how can a startup founder think of customers when all that motivates him is his own idea, his own persona, his own being the customer himself. So how can he make the transition, or how can he think of others when he's thinking all about his idea?
Most of the first elevator pitch that we hear from a startup starts with a story. And say, I was sitting with a bunch of friends having a cup of tea, and that day I could not, my friend was supposed to pick me up to take me to college and he didn't turn up. Right? So I struggled with the idea, how do I get to college? And then I went to the bus stop and there was no bus and I didn't know when the bus was going to come. So from that grew the idea that I need to develop a bus plan. So I am the customer, right? Because the problem related to me, now I'm going to extrapolate and say how many millions are there like me who will have the same problem, right? And from there, the empathy starts. So empathy starts with yourself, right? What we do is, when you come to us with an idea, we stomp on it. We take a sledgehammer to it, we break it, we smash it, and then we say put it together again. Now if you can put it together again, it's going to work.
My name is Javeria Najib. Thank you very much for a wonderful talk. Having worked with Mr. Humayun Mazhar, who's the president for the chapter as well, and also founder and CEO of Crest Ventures, which is an angel investment firm, I've come across and met many startups. So what I have found during that period, that startups, they know their idea, they know their target audience, but one thing that they maybe miss on to is the differentiation strategy, what makes them different, because they think they are different, but maybe how the customer values their differentiation strategy. I would want you to add shed some light on that. And secondly, they completely forget about the competitive landscape. So they don't know what others are doing, maybe what others are doing in other, maybe in India or maybe around the globe or maybe other parts of the world or maybe within the country. So competitive landscape is one part which I really want to, want you to shed light upon, and the other is the competitive differentiation strategy. That how this strategy which actually customer values, not only being different, but being different which is valued as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Again, we've gone back to that. What is the problem that we've identified and said, okay, here's a problem that potentially has a lot of opportunity in it. Shoes, right? Bata always went to countries where people were without shoes. They went to the third world, right? When TG Bata said, I'm going to put shoes on their feet because I don't have to compel them, they just need to realize that they need to cover their feet. So Africa, South Asia, big Bata factories became a huge brand in the world. Simple identification of one problem. And so people don't have shoes, they don't even wear slippers, they've got nothing covering their feet. So we'll start with that. Now, in terms of differentiation, how do I look at that problem and where do I find the solution for it? Is my solution something that is going to make it cheaper and make it quicker, right? Make it more economical, make it something that I can do in a better way, right? I've been doing the same thing, it's been happening, right? The first time I had student biryani, it was from a day outside the St. Patrick's College in Karachi. Now it's franchised, right? You can order student biryani sitting at home, right? So somebody somewhere decided that they're going to franchise the whole recipe for student biryani, right? And create a point of differentiation. They had a brand, they leverage the brand. Points of differentiation will always exist, right? It will exist either in the process that you are creating, because you can measure the process also. And the process doesn't mean just an industrial process. A process can also be the manner in which you deliver a service. So how is it that your brand is different? Is it something that solves a problem quicker? Does it reach out to more people than the normal geography that we are confined with? Right? Is it more economical in any manner? Right? Or does it have more effectiveness? In terms of pharmaceuticals, right, one of the key things is the environment under which pharmaceuticals are stored and delivered, because it can lose efficacy. Right? It has essential elements in it, right, and they can lose efficacy if they're not stored in the right temperature, delivered in the right temperature. Right? So that's a point of differentiation. If I just create that chain end to end and say you will get the medicine, right, with the most effective ingredients in it, that's a point of differentiation. Now it's got nothing to do with the medicine, it's got to do with the way I deliver it, the way I store it, the way it gets to you. So those are the kind of points of differentiation you have. Startups, by nature, these are young people, at times not so young. We've also had a 60-year-old jeweler, right, incubated at LC. Right? So he's been running his business for 30 years. And he decided, he had sent two of his sons off to study gemology. One went to Germany, one went to Amsterdam. And he himself came to LC and he said, I want to understand how to do business better. Right? I've been doing it in a certain way. Now I want to get beyond that, because I've got all the relationships, I understand gems, I understand design, I understand setting. My two sons are going, they're qualified, they've come back. And after his sons came back, he sent them again to LC to just do one part of the whole program, which is the entrepreneurial development program. So entrepreneurial skills, there are certain skills, 11 competencies that every entrepreneur normally has. Right? Timekeeping is one of them. My simple criteria is, if there's a founder team and they don't get to work by 8 in the morning, that means they're not interested. Right? If they're waking up at 10, 10:30, sauntering in at 11 and saying, we're a startup, right? I'd throw them out of the window and say, that's the way you go. You have to Because you have to have that desire to get to work. You shouldn't be able to sleep. As if when the day starts, so I have to get to work. Because I want to do more than my competitor can. So in competitive landscape, one of the things that we face, I think one of the points of differentiation that happened in the medieval ages is the West developed the watch, right? And they would divide time into minutes and seconds and hours, not just in the day, with the sundial. And that changed a lot of things. Their level of efficiency went up, the value of time went up. From that, they started writing music on a timeline. We still use timelines to do most of our development also. Even AI is developed using a timeline. So all those things start to happen. I encourage kids to learn how to play music, because without music you cannot develop a real deep mathematical understanding of things. Right? It helps you develop certain skills. Same thing with entrepreneurs. So we do an entrepreneurial development program where we hone those skills. So timekeeping is one of them. Honesty is another one. You have to be honest to yourself. Start with honesty to yourself. Know what you're doing. Don't pretend that you're doing really hard work. You're a startup and you want to change the world, but you can't get up for half a day. Or you want to goof off on weekend, you don't want to do anything. It's going to be a 7-day week for startups. And if you don't do 12, 14 hours a day, right, please go and do something else. Right? You're not cut out for entrepreneurship. Second, if you can't take a risk, you have to be able and ready to take a risk. We've had one instance, very good team. One of the members is just not willing to commit. Mujad is there, Mujad is left. Right? And we told them that you've got to reconfigure your team, because somebody is still hanging on to a job and wants to be part of this and is waiting for the upside and is waiting for some investor to walk in and put down $1 of money and then he will leave his job. Forget it. So there has to be a level of commitment and you have to take a level of risk also. Right? So from that perspective.
I have a two-part question. On the subject of allegorical references to entrepreneurs in this country being similar to shoe salesmen, do you feel it's more appropriate to compare them as shoe salesmen or shoelace salesmen? Because I'm sure you've heard of the famous story of the person who wanted to go to Africa to sell shoelaces.
Yeah.
And then he was told that, but people over there don't have shoes.
Yes.
And the whole point of that is that, you might have a great idea, but more important than marketing it is educating your audience. Secondly, this was a two-part question. This talk opened with a Richard Branson quote, and this other Richard Branson quote really sticks in my mind about how if somebody gives you an opportunity to, say, start a business, and you don't know a single thing about it, you just say yes and learn how to do it later. And the question I want to delve on from that is the person who comes up with a business plan to the dot of a product he knows nothing about going to be more successful, or is the person who does it as a hobby more likely to succeed in that regard?
Okay, two parts of that. Number one,
Yeah.
You have to know, right, what the problem is before you start to design any kind of solution. So if you're going to go and try and sell shoelaces to people who don't have shoes, it's not going to work. Right? So that's the first thing. You have to have very deep understanding of what the problem is for anything, for anywhere, in any market. Right? That's the first thing. The second, hobbies are good, right? Hobbies are passions, and passions can lead into big things. So there is nothing wrong with having a hobby. Arthur C. Clarke, right? He was a hobbyist. He was a hobbyist, and he loved radio communication. And his work is what we call the Clarke belt, which is the belt of satellites around the world through which you and I communicate. There's all kinds of things happening. It's called the Clarke belt. He was a hobbyist. He retired into Sri Lanka. Right? He set up an observatory there because he just wanted to look at the stars. Right? So hobbies do turn into big things. No business plan can be developed unless we actually have insight of the problem and know what kind of solution we're designing. Right? So you need to have that understanding. You need to understand the geography, the limitations, the behavior. And behavior changes. Right? So it's not static. Human beings are not static. We evolve. Right? We evolve even within a lifetime. So over generations we evolve quite a lot. The way, when we used to watch Star Trek in the late 60s, early 70s, and they had a communicator, we'd say, this is science fiction. Right? Now it's science fact. right? So everybody has a communicator, right? And they're growing. So you've got to look at it from that perspective also and say, okay, what normally the big opportunity is not something that's on the horizon, it's beyond the horizon. Right? Great entrepreneurs are those who can actually identify that problem that is going to come up. Right? We just talked about it and said data indicates that Pakistan is water stressed. Right? And that same data says that we are the one of the countries most affected by climate change. Now, what are the problems over the horizon that we can identify, that we can start to convert into opportunities? Right? So what's going to happen? Right? Are we going to need more air conditioning because it's going to get hotter? Right? So which means we need more energy. Right? Is that going to be off-grid, on-grid? Right? How is it going to be delivered? How is it going to be measured? You know, all those things. So if you're able to look beyond the horizon, and that is normally when you are seeking knowledge, when you're asking questions. No knowledge can be sought without questions.
Okay.
Once you're doing that, you will always, if not see it in the first instance, you'll stumble onto something. Right? And that stumble will be the problem that becomes an opportunity.
So my name is Muhammad Haris, and the startup which I have is named as, I call it E3 Academy. E3 stands for Empower, Entertain, Educate. So what I'm doing, I'm providing the middle class with the O-level education, the people who wants to do O-levels but who cannot afford O-levels. And how I'm doing this, as I said, it's a three months old startup, and at this stage I have a Facebook page, and I have a team of teachers who are themselves students. In their part-time they are teaching, and we have a virtual thing via Zoom. If you do you know about Zoom? Right. Yeah. So we do those sessions via Zoom, and we call it a virtual academy. So I would like to know that at this stage, we don't have a lot of students. There are around 20 students, and I don't have the technical skills.
Most startups don't have 20 customers, so you're doing all right. Online platform, right, to specifically target O-level students. There must have been a reason.
Yeah.
Right. So what is that reason? Online academy or an online platform, right, to specifically target O-level students. There must have been a reason.
Yeah.
Right. So what was that reason?
So the main reason is back in my O-levels, I couldn't afford the O-levels academy myself.
So the problem started with yourself, right?
Yeah, sir, exactly.
So you have empathy with the problem that you have.
Exactly.
You said lots of people out there are like Haris,
yes,
who want to do their O-levels.
Exactly.
They can't afford to go to a school that offers O-levels. Right?
Exactly.
So how do you do that? Right? So I think it's a question of going looking for those customers. Right? So use the tools at hand. Right? If you don't have too much money, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? Effectively, go to every little school that you can with the board and say, you want to do your O-levels. Right? Come talk to me. Right? At times that has to be done.
Okay.
You go and activate in those areas where you feel that those students who are doing matriculation and would rather do O-levels, right, are living in those areas. You can identify them by geography. Right? You can look at different, you can find data, and you can see and say, okay, in the city of Lahore, right, these particular areas, right, there aren't any schools that offer O-levels, so I can go and talk to them and say, I'm going to offer you an O-level opportunity. So it is hacking, it is going out there, it is looking for that customer. If you don't have too much money, you cannot put up lots of damage.
I don't have on our back end, so that
For that, you need to come and have a session. So we can go over that and say, okay, here's the checklist. These are the things that you can do. These are the possible ways you can find your students. Right? Your bigger problem may be how do you get money from them? How do they pay you? And that is probably going to be a bigger problem because you want thousands of customers, not hundreds.
Exactly.
Right? Collecting from hundreds is easy. Collecting from 1,000 is much more difficult. Right? So you need to look at all those issues also. But if you have a product that works, right? If you have teachers that can deliver the curriculum, right? Then you will find people also. You just have to go looking for them.
Thank you very much, Faisal. Thank you very much, Maru, for moderating this wonderful session. Being a marketing professional and being a marketing student myself, this topic is really close to my heart, and I really felt the need that we had been doing various workshops in various verticals. We did one in fintech and healthcare and legal issues that startups come up with. But then we brainstormed and came up with the thought that we should have a session how to accelerate growth and how to help startups brand themselves in the right way, how they can position. And Faisal Sherjan is a name who is an authority and who can handle the job really well. Thank you very much for your participation, and now I would like to request Mr. Hamaya Mazhar, who is the president for the chapter. And let's welcome Mr. Hamaya Mazhar.
Who matter or are mature enough and who've done things. Somehow one misconception in Pakistan is that anyone who started a startup and has raised some money are automatically, successful founders. So with the idea, with the team, the next possible stage when you get some funding, that's where the journey starts. And the ratios are very, very skewed against you, because the pass rate in this is about 20%. So 80% of the startups, especially when we talk about tech, when we're talking about new technology, or the tech startup culture, it's a very, very, starting a business, entrepreneurship, by definition is a person who's going to take a risk to start some venture, right? So when you're talking about tech startups or the startups we've been talking about, that is the high end of the risk. So you really have to be very passionate. And like Faisal shared earlier, it's 24/7. So the passion drives you. You have to be there. It's your baby. Really make it happen. So one thing, I've gone through about 150, 200 applications which I've looked over the last 2 years. One of the things we see is more now. This is a fad also. Startup, entrepreneurship. So everyone who's getting out of college is saying, okay, I want to go the Me Too approach. So instead of doing a job, instead of doing anything else, let's start a startup. It's encouraging because there are a lot of startups. And now we have 4 more incubators coming in. So let's say, just from a year and a half back when we started, you can very easily, 15 to 20 names come to your mind. When we look at companies, the first question we ask them is, what kind of model are you? Are you an inventor? Are you trying to build something new, which can happen? Are you a faster, cheaper, better model? If you're a faster, cheaper, better model, are you a faster, cheaper, better model of someone in Pakistan, some regional player, some international player? But most of the companies we've come across are Me Too. If my friend has set up a startup, why can't I set up a startup? Which is not bad either. We want to promote entrepreneurship, but we got to take it with a pinch of salt. So I think today's takeaway as to the idea, the passion, how you brand your company is very important. But the first journey is, the first decision you got to make at that point is when you start this. That do I have that idea? Do I have something which is needed by others? And that's how this whole process starts. And gradually going into this life cycle of growing up and bringing a big brand. The other thing in brands is, we see a lot of Western names coming up. So I remember, and I'm talking way back, when I came back to Pakistan, the first, and I was working at that time in Faisal, so I saw this huge sign. It said Guy Soap. Right? So it took me about a month to figure out that this is not, I thought they may be written soup. So it was a Guy Soap. And similarly, I saw some other funny ads like that. And I asked the marketing guy that, one of the things you do in branding is for people to relate with your product, right? And people, same as with our election system. So why do we have this kitab and arrow and cycle? because literacy level is not very high. These symbols are not only well understood but used also. So while you're doing your branding, while you're coming out with all these exciting names, one of the things you have to keep in mind is that people have to be able to relate to it. So when you identify your customer, you brand it accordingly. So let's say if it's masses of, or bottom of the pyramid, it can't be a very fancy name which you come up with, because people will not be able to relate with it. So one of the things in branding, I think, very important for the ability of people to relate with it. So I think it's been a very enlightening talk today. All of us, have some, takeaways from it. So thank you for coming, and it was a pleasure having you on.
Now I would request myself to give a certificate of appreciation to Faisal sir. Thank you very much, Maruk. We would also request you to receive your certificate. Maruk is also CEO in Instaprint and also founder of Supersys. And she's one of the charter members as well. Now I would request for a group photo with the speakers and the president. If somebody is interested, we can have a group photo over here.
The ones who ask the questions can come.